Talira Oral stepped onto the elevated dais of the imperial court, the crystalline floor humming faintly under her booted feet as 1,000 eyes, luminescent, multifaceted and unblinking, fixed upon her. She drew a measured breath, the air thick with the scent of ionized ozone from the hovering holodisplays, and launched into the invocation without pause. By the codex of eternal weave, in the tongue of the lost Vixari. Zorath que vadis impera solara unda, let the solar weave bind our fates anew. A ripple passed through the assembly, mandibles clicking in approval from the outer tiers while the inner council's antennae twitched with precise calculation. Her xenolinguistics tutor had drilled the extinct dialect for cycles, but Talira had mastered its rhythmic inflections in half the time, weaving ceremonial tactics into every syllable to preempt the traditionalist faction's opening salvos. Chancellor Malevor, seated at the council's apex with his iridescent carapace gleaming under the vaulted lights, inclined his head a fraction. Acknowledgement, not praise. The heir apparent demonstrates prowess befitting her station, male-intoned, his voice a resonant chime that echoed off the vaulted arches, yet prowess alone does not secure the throne. The Imperium faces shadows. Terran trade embargoes choking our hyperlane conduits, skirmishes probing our border nebulae. The Council proposes alliance through union. Murmurs swelled like a gathering storm. Talira held her stance, wings partially unfurled in poised readiness. As projections flickered to life, cargo haulers adrift, their hulls vented to vacuum. Aurelian pickets trading plasma fire with unidentified raiders. She had pored over the dispatches in her private alcove, piloting sims of evasion maneuvers in her shuttle cockpit until the patterns emerged. Terran opportunism masking deeper fractures in galactic trade pacts. A strategic match, she replied, her tone calibrated to ceremonial cadence. But the weave demands balance. Name the candidate. Male's compound eyes narrowed, facets glinting. Jonah Mercer, cultural attaché from Terra Prime. He arrives within the cycle. The name hung unfamiliar, a blunt Terran monosyllable amid Aurelian polysyllables. Talira's mind raced through xenolinguistic databases, humans, baseline bipeds, renowned for endurance and labor logs perhaps. Dismissible curiosities, their worlds peripheral until now. The council chamber doors irised open with a hydraulic sigh, admitting a figure in unadorned gray envoy robes, flanked by protocol drones. Jonah Mercer moved with economical grace, neither hastening nor lagging, his pale skin unmarked by the bioluminescent tattoos of high envoys, no entourage, no flourish. He halted precisely at the dais base, inclining his head in a gesture Talira's implants flagged as standard human deference. Neutral, efficient. Princess Talira Orel, he said, voice steady and accentless through the universal translator. I accept the Imperium's proposal on behalf of Terra. Duty binds me. Duty. The word landed oddly, lacking the layered harmonics of Aurelian oaths. Whispers erupted from the rival faction's benches, Chancellor Male's allies, their wings buzzing faintly in agitation. A soft-skinned outsider, one elder intoned, mandibles clacking. Our bloodline. Purity of the solar weave. Questions the succession, another chimed, antenna lashing. What authority does this Terran claim in our halls? Male rose, his shadow stretching long across the dais. The Chancellor echoes these concerns. A foreign consort risks dilution of imperial resolve. The match serves trade, yes, but at what cost to our core? Talira's core temperature spiked a degree, but she quelled it, channeling the moment into negotiation. She had anticipated this. Her flaw was naivety in palace shadows, but not in protocol. The weave accommodates adaptation. I propose binding clauses. The consort holds no public authority beyond cultural advisory. In exchange, Terra commits 3 hyperlane squadrons and embargo waivers within the decacycle. Sign, and peace endures. The chamber stilled. Jonah Mercer's expression remained impassive, gray eyes scanning the assembly without challenge. Disciplined, as if enduring a minor discomfort. Male's facets whirred, processing. Ambitious terms, Hair, but viable. The council concurs. Joe's seals chimed digitally, holos locking the contract in iridescent threads. Talira exhaled inwardly, her wings settling, control secured. The throne's fragility remained hers to guard. The reception followed in the grand atrium, crystal spires refracting starlight into prismatic veils. Courtiers clustered, offering ritual toasts with glowing nectar vials. Talira navigated the throng, her implants feeding subtext. Male's faction probing for weaknesses, their pheromones laced with skepticism. Jonah stood apart near a data pillar, accepting a vial without flourish. When a tipsy attaché pressed him on Terran customs, "Do your kind truly subsist on fermented grains alone?" He replied evenly, "We adapt to what's at hand, efficiency over excess." No boast, just fact. Yet courtiers lingered, antennae tilting curiously at his unflagging poise. Cycles of nectar would have softened an Aurelian's reflexes, but Mercer juggled queries from 3 factions simultaneously, recalling obscure trade edicts without pause. Talira observed from across the chamber, noting how he mirrored Aurelian gestures flawlessly after one demonstration, adaptability her tutors deemed primitive in humans. Male approached him then, looming with calculated menace. "Cultural attaché. You accept this duty lightly?" Mercer's posture didn't shift. "Lightly? No, Chancellor. With commitment." His tone held no edge, yet Male's wings twitched. A physiological tell of unease. Intrigued despite herself, Talira glided over as the reception waned. "Attaché Mercer, you've endured the court's scrutiny admirably. As clause permits, I offer a guided tour of the palace archives. Knowledge bridges alliances." His eyes met hers directly, unblinking, human fashion. "I'd be honored, Princess. Lead on." The archives burrowed deep beneath the palace, vaults of quantum lattices pulsing with millennia of data. Talira's boots echoed softly as she unsealed the primary nexus, biometrics humming approval. Cool air carried the tang of superconducting coils. Here lie the weaves of empire, xenotreaties, skirmish logs, purity edicts contested by Male's faction. Jonah scanned the interfaces, fingers hovering without touching. Impressive preservation. Terran archives rely more on distributed nets, resilient, but less tactile. She activated a holocube, projecting border skirmish sims. "These raiders evade our pickets with erratic vectors. Your world's contribution?" He leaned in, tracing a pattern on the projection with a finger, connecting a nebula drift to an ancient Vexari maneuver she'd invoked earlier. Pattern here mirrors old Earth naval tactics. Feints in fog. Combine your shuttle drones with predictive swarms. Talira's implants flagged the insight. Humans excelled at such cross-domain links. Per fringe xenostudies, she tested him, cueing a xenolinguistic puzzle, decode a Krellian fragment. Mercer parsed it in moments, pronunciation rough but structure sound. Alliance tempers the storm. Fitting. A warmth stirred in her thorax. Unfamiliar, respect perhaps, for this humble envoy who questioned nothing yet revealed depths. But Male's shadow loomed in her thoughts. Purity concerns masked deeper ambitions. As they delved deeper, a proximity alert chimed softly from her vambrace, an unscheduled shuttle docking in the outer bays. "Unexpected," she murmured, wings half rising. Jonah's hand brushed his robe seam, subtle, disciplined readiness. Peace rested on their contract, but Talira intended to wield it like a blade. Whatever shadows stirred, she would face them unbound. Talira's wings snapped fully open as the first chant of the rite of binding echoed through the Hall of Stars. Crystal spires hummed with projected starfields, bathing the assembled envoys in auroral light, but the undercurrent of dissent hummed louder. Merchant house delegates shifting in their alcoves, their pheromone trails souring the air with unspoken accusations. She stepped forward on the central dais, ignoring the distant roar of street demonstrations filtering through the palace shields, her voice cutting clear and unyielding. "By the light of the first nebula and the compact of worlds," she intoned, her multifaceted eyes locking onto the Terran envoy delegation. "This union seals the Aurelian Imperium's pact with Terra. Trade lanes open without tariff walls, mutual defense against void pirates, shared research on hyperlane stabilization." She paused, letting the words hang, her tail curling deliberately to signal finality. No flowery evasions. She'd scripted this on her terms last night. After poring over the xenolinguistic archives, the rival suitor factions, led by House Kaelor and their merchant allies, could protest all they wanted from the galleries. She'd named the obligations plain, forcing every envoy to affirm or walk. A ripple of mandibles clicked in approval from the neutral blocks, but Chancellor Maelvor's crest flattened subtly from his advisor's perch. Talira noted it, filing the micro-gesture away. Her new spouse, Jonah Mercer, stood beside her in his tailored attaché robes, the human's posture relaxed yet alert. He inclined his head to the envoys, his voice steady through the translation field. As cultural attaché to Princess Talira, I pledge Terra's goodwill in this exchange. May our worlds weave stronger threads. Symbolic, precise, his duties as outlined. He extended a palm, pressing it to the binding crystal alongside hers. The artifact pulsed warm, etching neural imprints that locked the vows across species. Talira felt a faint psychic tug, a bridge forming between her mind and his. Not love, not yet, but alliance, solid. She glanced at him sidelong. His dark eyes met hers without flinching. That subtle handbrush at his seam earlier now making sense. A human tick of readiness, perhaps, unexpected indeed. The procession began as tradition demanded, Talira leading the paired march down the hall's length, Jonah at her right, envoys trailing in ranked files. Palace guards flanked them, iridescent scales gleaming under the hovering lighting rigs, massive orbital projectors synced to mimic a nebula's birth. Cheers from loyalists drowned the protests outside, but Talira's wings twitched at every shadow. House Kalor's banners loomed in the upper tiers, their suitor proxy, Lord Vexar, smirking from a veiled balcony. Then, a shriek of tortured alloy. The forward lighting rig buckled, its anchor bolts snapping like brittle bone. It plummeted straight toward the procession's heart, a cascade of glowing shards and twisted frame massing tons. Gasps erupted, envoys scattered in panic, wings and limbs flailing. Talira lunged instinctively, shoving Jonah aside as the first debris glanced her shoulder. Hot sting, but her flight membranes held. Down, she barked, rolling behind a pillar. Chaos exploded, screams crunching metal embedding in the marble floor, dust choking the air. Guards fired stun nets at falling fragments, but the rig's core slammed down 20 paces ahead, crushing a service alcove and pinning 2 staff beneath. Jonah was already moving. He surged up, not toward her, but into the fray, dodging a whirling panel that scalped a fleeing envoy's crest. Clear the center! Guards, form lanes to the exits! His voice boomed, calm amid the din, translation field amplifying it. He grabbed a fallen guard's comm panel, fingers flying across the alien interface like he'd drilled it a lifetime. Talira blinked. Humans adapted to tech that fast? He multitasked without pause, one hand directing guards to cordon the debris zone, the other signaling med drones from his robe's hidden pouch. Terran make, compact and humming to life. Triage here. Check pulses first. Stabilize bleeds. You too. He pointed to scaled guards gaping at him. Lift that beam on my count. Slow. Even pressure. The guards hesitated a split second, mandibles agape at the human barking orders in flawless protocol speak, but obeyed. Jonah wedged under the beam himself, muscles straining visibly under his robes as he heaved with them. It lifted just enough. Drones zipped in, injecting nanoseals on the pin staff's wounds. Talira pushed to her feet, shoulder throbbing, wings half flaring in shock. She rushed forward, weaving through the halted procession. Jonah? Status? Envoys clustered at the edges, pheromones thick with fear and awe. One insectoid delegate murmured into a recorder, optics whirring, documenting the human, no doubt. 8 injured, 2 critical but stabilizing, Jonah replied, wiping dust from his face without breaking stride. He was everywhere, handing a drone controller to a guard, then pivoting to organize the crowd, herding panicking merchant reps away from unstable rigs. Imperium left to the east arch. Terrans, follow your envoy. No pushing, breathe steady. A child staffer wailed nearby, leg gashed. Jonah knelt, tying a tourniquet from his robe's hem with practiced knots, soothing her in halting but effective Aurelian. Easy, little one. Hold still. Pain fades. Palace engineers swarmed the wreckage, scanners beeping. One, a wiry tech with flickering biolume vents, knelt by a severed bolt. Sabotage, he hissed to Talira as she approached. Corrosion, accelerant. Trace isotopes match Kalor vendor carts. They supplied the rig's last cycle. Her tail lashed. Vor's faction then. Protests were cover for this strike. The wedding bound them on paper. This tested it in blood. Jonah straightened from the child, meeting her gaze. Sweat beaded his brow, but his breathing stayed even. No fatigue slump. Humans endured like that? Guards nearby exchanged glances, crests rising in reluctant admiration. One muttered, soft-skinned but steady. Talira's mind raced. Symbolic spouse no longer sufficed. She raised her voice, wings spreading for authority. All halt. Engineers, secure the rigs. Full scans. Guards, report to. She locked eyes on Jonah, decision crystallizing. His competence wasn't flash, it was workmanlike, unassuming, bridging their chaos with order. To Attaché Mercer. He oversees ceremony security from this moment. Coordinate through him. Murmurs rippled, envoys, guards, even Vor's alcove bristling. Jonah paused mid-directive, surprise flickering before he nodded. Understood, Princess. Perimeter first, then evac sweeps, Queen. She watched him dive back in, multitasking a perimeter check while briefing drone redeploys, his human frame a blur of quiet efficiency. A guard captain approached her sidelong, voice low. Highness? A Terran? He's no diplomat. Saw him pattern the crowd flows like a void combat sim. Precisely, Talira replied, hiding her own wonder. Jonah hadn't boasted. He just acted. Her shoulder ached, but resolve warmed her core. This marriage wasn't fragile ornament. It was her blade's edge. As the hall stabilized under his lead, she felt the alliance shift. Real and tested. Shadows stirred, but with him at her side, she'd cut through them. Chancellor Vor glided closer through the settling dust, his advisor's robes impeccable. A grave incident, Highness. Perhaps the Union invites such instability. Talira's wings angled sharp. Where tests are resolved, Chancellor. See to the envoy's comfort. Security is Mercer's now. Vor's crest twitched, dismissal unmet, but he bowed, retreating with a pheromone sting of calculation. Jonah caught her eye across the chaos, offering a brief human nod. Partnership, not subservience. Her pulse quickened, unexpected warmth threading the bond. The procession would resume, vows intact, but practice demanded more than symbols now. A deafening crack split the air, the service corridor erupting in a fireball that hurled attendants like shattered ornaments. Shrapnel whined off gilded walls, and Talira's world tilted as the shockwave slammed her procession to a halt. Acrid smoke clawed her throat, screams piercing the haze. Her maids, the protocol officers, crumpled amid the debris blocking the palace ingress. Down. Everyone down. Jonah's voice cut through, raw and commanding, not the soft tones of a cultural attaché. From her vantage behind the honor guard, Talira saw him surge forward, a blur of human motion. He vaulted a fallen beam, body low and coiled, intercepting a secondary flashbang arcing toward the cluster of injured. His arm snapped out. He smothered the device under his cloak, smothering the blast in a muffled thud that singed the fabric but spared the prone figures. He didn't hesitate, scooping one limp attendant under each arm, far heavier than any Aurelian frame should manage without strain. Jonah barreled back through the smoke, depositing them beside Talira's feet. His breath came steady, eyes scanning the corridor's twisted mouth for more threats. Clear here, he said, voice level, already turning to drag a third bloodied protocolist to safety. No fumbling, no pause for exhaustion. He moved like the explosion was just another drill. Talira's guards fumbled to their feet, plasma lances humming to life too late. Admiral Sarah, her iridescent scales paling under the emergency lights, barked orders into her comm. Breach confirmed. Seal sectors 4 through 7. But Sarah's gaze locked on Jonah, mandibles twitching in disbelief. Humans weren't built for this. Fragile oxygen breathers, protocol said, yet there he was, hauling the last attendant clear, checking pulses with practiced efficiency while smoke still billowed. Talira's heart hammered, not just from the blast. That nod from moments ago, across the wedding chaos, had felt like a promise. Now it was action. She straightened, imperial robes torn but voice steel. Admiral Sarah, full audit of palace security. Now, every protocol, every access log. I want hands-on briefings from your leads within the hour. No delays. Sarah's compound eyes widened. A flicker of surprise at the air's directness sheltered Talira, who deferred to ceremony. Highness, the ingress is compromised. We reroute. No. Talira stepped forward, ignoring the sting of minor cuts on her arms. This was aimed at us. Gaps like this don't close with reroutes. Brief me personally after the audit. Move. The Admiral saluted sharply, her tail flicking submission, and peeled off with her team. Talira turned to Jonah, who was binding a gash on an attendant's leg with strips from his own tunic. Up close, soot streaked his face, but his hands were steady. That was no attaché reflex. He met her eyes, wiping grime from his brow. Training, Highness. Old habits. No boast. Just fact. Around them guards murmured. Aurelians weren't wired for such raw improvisation. Their strength lay in formation, precision strikes. A human juggling blast suppression, triage, and evacuation. Sarah's second whispered into a datapad, no doubt logging it for the xenobiology archives. Medics swarmed in, stabilizing the wounded. 8 injured. 2 critical but no fatalities, thanks to him. Talira's mind raced. The procession had been symbolic. Thous exchanged amid cheers. This was real. Her household, her throne, exposed. By midday, as the palace locked down, the pamphlets hit the public feeds. Holoscreens in the outer plazas flickered with them. Lurid images of Jonah staging the blast. Terran sabotage to infiltrate the Imperium. "Human deception exposed," screamed the headers, courtesy of Chancellor Malefor's faction. Whispers rippled through the court feeds. Succession unstable. The alien union a ploy. Public opinion soured fast. Even loyalists questioned. Talira watched from her command alcove, fists clenched on the armrests. Mail had moved swiftly. His skeptics inflamed. The Chancellor's faceplate gleamed in a statement vid. Coincidence? But, or Terran ploy, the air must safeguard our purity. She summoned Sarah via secure link. The Admiral appeared in holo, audit prelims scrolling behind her. Highness, gaps confirmed. Service vents unmonitored during processions. Overrides from auxiliary codes. And Jonah Mercer? Sarah hesitated, mandibles clicking. His actions saved lives, reflexes, anomalous for a diplomat. But the pamphlets, counter them. Talira leaned in, place him under supervised authority within palace defenses. Official posture, integrated asset, not guest. Full access to security rotations, under your oversight. It changes nothing of his cover, but signals trust. Sarah's scales flushed deeper azure, approval, intrigue. Bold Highness. The court will note it. Male's faction cries. Favoritism. Let them. Audit first. Rumors second. Talira cut the link, pulse steadying. She'd studied xenolinguistics, piloted shuttles and sims, but command, this was forging it. Jonah arrived shortly after, escorted by 2 guards. He stood before her in the alcove, still in scorched attire, declining a medic's scan. Highness, you heard? He nodded once. Supervised authority. I accept. No protests? Ceremonial honors come with it. Medals, titles. Terrans value that. A faint smile tugged his lips, weary but genuine. Duty over ambition, Highness. My role's protection, not parades. Supervised works. Keeps things clean. Talira studied him. No push for glory, no human bravado tales. Just acceptance, like hauling bodies through fire was Tuesday. Her attendants had marveled earlier. One whispered of human pack endurance, how they bonded and endured where Aurelians flagged. Sarah's logs would pile up, multitasking under fire, pattern recognition spotting the secondary device. Talira felt it too. A shift. He'd seen her quick audit call. Matched it with humility. Clean it is, she said. Brief Sarah's team on those reflexes. Not all, just enough to plug gaps. Understood. He paused at the alcove's edge. You handled the chaos well. Not many first-timers order audits mid-smoke. Heat rose in her crests. Not flattery. Truth. Practice demands it now. Their eyes held, that warmth from the procession threaded deeper, partnership solidifying. As he left, Male's next move loomed in the feeds, but Talira felt the palace's pulse steady under her grip. Vulnerabilities exposed, yes, but so was utility. Hers and his. Hours blurred into the audit grind. Sarah's leads filed in, datapads humming with vent schematics and code traces. Talira pored over them hands-on, cross-referencing with Jonah's input. He sketched blast trajectories on a shared holoboard, his human scrawl precise, secondary paths here, pressure vents as choke points. Aurelian techs blinked, wrote patrols missed that. His pattern spotting wove it novel. One tech, a young drone named Kale, probed cautiously. Terran, your endurance. No fatigue after the lift, our frames ache post-blast. Jonah shrugged, erasing a line. Adrenaline training, humans multitask it. No lecture, just demo as he overlaid evasion routes, adapting palace grids on the fly. Kale's vents whistled awe. Sarah nodded, scales shimmering respect. Imperium records understate you. Collaborative edge. Talira watched the exchange, her own arc sharpening, naivety cracking under necessity, protocol to pragmatism. Jonah's humility drew her in. He deferred to Sarah's formations, blending his improv with their precision. A quiet meal followed in the alcove, simple rations, shared across species. He offered a human nutrient bar. She tried it. Tartness, sparking laughter. Like shuttle fuel, better with company. His gaze warmed, no pressure. Public feeds churned. Mails' pamphlets viral, protests flickering at plazas. But inside, alliances knit. Talira glimpsed her growth, not just heir but leader. Jonah's nod across chaos, harbinger. By nightfall, Sarah reported traces, auxiliary codes linked to Chancellor's outer aids. No proof, yet. Talira bedded down in secured quarters. Jonah posted nearby under supervision. Sleep evaded. Mind replayed his surge through fire.
Ordinary human?
No. Extraordinary ally. Dawn brought escalation whispers, mail summoning faction heads. But Talira rose ready, bond with Jonah no longer symbolic. Throne secured through such threads, alarms shattered the dawn hush, red pulses flooding Talira's command alcove as the first report crackled through. Border Relay Theta. 9 offline, explosive decompression confirmed. Coordinated breach. She bolted upright from her console, heart slamming against her ribs, the whispers of Mail's summons now drowned in catastrophe. Her fingers flew across the hollow interfaces, pulling feeds from the relay's outer markers. Shuttles vaporized mid-dock, debris blooming like crimson flowers against the void. Before she could query palace security, a second klaxon wailed, internal this time. Armory breach. Intruders neutralized but munitions cache compromised. Timed sequence verified. Talira's breath caught. 2 strikes synchronized to the pulse, hitting supply lines and defenses in one stroke. Not random pirates. Conspiracy. She stabbed the comm, voice steady despite the chill coiling in her gut. All units. Seal sectors. Jonah. Report to Central Ops. Now. He was already there when she burst into the chamber, moving with predatory calm amid the chaos of scrambling guards. His cultural attaché robes were shed, replaced by a sleek tactical vest that hugged his human frame. Practical, unadorned, like he'd packed it for this exact dawn. Guards deferred to him without question as he synced his wrist pad to the main tactical grid, overlaying relay schematics with palace blueprints in a fluid cascade no protocol droid could match. 2-pronged, Jonah said, not looking up, his voice a low anchor. Relay cuts our early warning net. Armory guts response. They're buying time for a third hit. Palace core or your quarters. He dragged virtual markers predicting infill vectors from debris patterns. Countersweep. Fan teams here, and pinch at the service ducts. Drones on overwatch but stagger them. Predictable patterns, scream bait. Talira watched, transfixed, as guards nodded and moved without her orders. Jonah's planning wove their rigid Aurelian doctrines with something rawer. Improvised choke points from maintenance shafts, feints using vent exhaust to mask thermal sigs. He juggled 3 feeds at once, live drone cams, armory breach forensics, even atmospheric drift from the relay blast. Her attaché, this was fieldcraft poetry, beyond any embassy briefings she'd scanned. A guard hesitated at a junction overlay. Attaché Mercer, that flanks our own patrol. Trust the angles, Jonah cut in, patient but iron. They'll loop back clean. The man obeyed, and Talira saw it click. Jonah wasn't commanding. He was orchestrating, reading the palace's bones like a map etched in his mind. By midday, sweeps cleared the ducts. No third strike. Jonah leaned against the console, wiping sweat from his brow. Hours without pause, while her guards rotated shifts. Conspiracies rattled, he said, meeting her gaze. But they'll adapt. She nodded, pulse still racing from the precision of it all. His cover felt paper-thin now, a diplomat who danced through kill zones like breath. Your tactics, they're not in the Terran attaché manuals I reviewed. A flicker in his eyes, guarded but not denying. Field experience adapts. That night, alone in her secure vault, Talira bypassed the Chancellor's oversight locks. Her royal codes peeled open restricted Alliance files, cross-referencing Jonah's dossier against Black Ops leaks from Terran feeds. Discrepancies bloomed, service gaps filled with diplomatic sabbaticals, commendations scrubbed but traceable to special operations clusters. Ex-commander. Embedded guardian. Her spouse wasn't just cultural window dressing. He was a warrior, concealed to safeguard the Union. And her, dawn's second light brought the elders' summons, their chamber thick with incense and rival banners. Chancellor Mael Vor stood foremost, his faction's sigils, crimson serpents, flanking a holographic projection of Lord Kael Draven, the rival suitor, his fleet massing at system edge. The strikes expose your frailty, heir apparent. Mael intoned, voice silk over steel. Annul the Terran farce. Draven's bloodline stabilizes us. No alien variables. No blasted relays. Talira's claws tightened on her throne arms, the armory's acrid echo still in her nostrils. Elders murmured assent, eyes flicking to Jonah at her side, dismissed as the soft-skinned outsider. The alliance holds, she countered, voice ringing clear. Mercer's sweep saved this palace. Question my consort, and you question our survival. Mael's gaze sharpened. A cultural aid directing arms? Legitimacy fractures, princess. Draven rallies. Witness his banners. Hollow feeds swelled. Draven's armada. Legitimate houses pealing to his call. Succession hung by her resolve. Jonah remained silent, a steady presence. But she felt his tension. Humble. Contained. Yet unbreakable. She dismissed them with steel in her spine. We train, now. In the shadowed Undercroft gym, reinforced against breaches, Talira faced Jonah, her ceremonial silks traded for reinforced bodysuit. Trust was a frayed thread, he'd hidden depths, yes, but lied by omission. Still, the throne demanded more than protocol. Teach me, she said flatly. Close quarters, command, no more shadows. He studied her, then nodded once, shedding his vest to reveal corded muscle earned in unseen wars. Agreed, but it's not pageantry. You lead through instinct, not rank. He circled, stance loose yet coiled. First, breach response. Intruders funnel here, your move. She lunged as drilled, claws extended for grapple, but he sidestepped fluidly, countering with a palm redirect that spun her into wall padding. No force, just precision. Two telegraphed, read the room's tells. Echoes, airshift. Again. Hours blurred, sweat stung her eyes. Jonah never flagged, correcting her form with quiet corrections, layering tactics, multitask, scan flanks while closing. Humans call it flow. He demonstrated a disarm chaining into a hold, his grip firm but teaching, body heat bridging their alien divide. Her strikes sharpened, mind-mapping the gym's shadows like he'd mapped the ducts. Command isn't orders, he said during a water break, passing her a flask without ceremony. It's seeing patterns others miss. Your elders? They're rote. Connect the relay blast to armory timers, same detonator isotope. Predict next. She absorbed it, frustration yielding to spark. His humility disarmed her. No boasts, just patient forging. A brush of hands lingered as he adjusted her stance, warmth flickering amid the strain. Not romance, not yet, but alliance, deepening. By dusk, redeployment briefings called. Talira strode into ops, Jonah at her flank. Guards snapped to as she overlaid his gym lessons onto the grid. Flank patrols here, staggered vents for thermal mask. Drones pinch, not swarm. Her voice carried new weight, gestures crisp. A captain blinked, her, directing like a veteran. Jonah nodded approval from the shadows, silent partner. The net tightened, patrols reported anomalous heat sigs neutralized before breach. Male spies would note it, Draven's banners loom larger, but as Jonah met her eyes post-brief, a quiet respect passed between, trust thinning to thread no longer. Her claws flexed, mind alight with patterns. Princess to commander. Spouse to instructor. The lessons had only begun. Explosions rocked the palace foundations, the thunder of plasma barrages rattling Talira's claws against the strategy holotable. Red alerts screamed through the chamber as Draven's militia banners flickered to life on the display. Swarms of armored troops flooding the outer districts, synchronized with the Allied fleet's assault vectors slamming into the capital's ports. They're here, she hissed, spines bristling along her neck, her multifaceted eyes locking on Jonah's steady gaze amid the chaos. He didn't flinch. In one fluid motion, Jonah slapped the lockdown sequence, sealing the chamber with a hiss of reinforced bulkheads. Tal, listen close. No more attaché. I'm Jonah Mercer, Terran Special Operations Command, embedded to protect you and this alliance. Been running shadows since I landed. His voice cut through the din like a vibroblade, calm amid the fleet icons blooming like wounds on the hollow. She stared, the pieces snapping into place. His uncanny endurance during endless drills, the way he'd multitasked fleet sims while reading her subtle crest flares, predicting her doubts before she voiced them. Human. Not just any. Extraordinary, without a boast. Gunfire echoed closer, militia chatter crackling over intercepted comms. Jonah's fingers flew across the console, rallying loyal guard frequencies with barked codes that bypassed jammed channels. Vanguard platoon, converge on East Wing, hold the line, engineering, reroute power to shield grids. Troops responded instantly, their voices laced with surprise but snapping to obedience. Talira's heart pounded. She'd seen him as spouse, instructor, but this, command incarnate, her claws itched for action, training surging through her veins. No time for awe, Jonah said, tossing her a pulse carbine from the wall locker, its grip molding to her scaled palm. Draven's militia has the districts, fleets pounding ports, but they've overextended. We hit back, retake the throne hall, cut the head off this serpent. He outlined the plan in seconds, feint from service tunnels, flank through the grand atrium. Talira nodded, her mind alight with counter-orders from their sessions, ceremonial strategy twisted into real tactics. I'll lead the strike. You coordinate from here? His eyes met hers, a flicker of pride cutting the tension. Together. Always. They burst from the chamber, Jonah's human frame enduring the sprint without a hitch while her guards lagged, chitin plates clacking in fatigue. Militia patrols swarmed the corridors, energy bolts scorching walls, but Jonah multitasked seamlessly, firing precise suppression while hacking door overrides, adapting to Aurelian security on the fly. Talira's team fell in, her voice booming orders. Flank left, suppress high ground, pattern delta. A burst from her carbine dropped to assailants, her shuttle pilot reflexes guiding the shot. They hit the service tunnels like a storm, steam hissing around them as Jonah spotted a militia ambush, vents shifting unnaturally. Trap ahead, he murmured, reading the subtle airflow patterns no Aurelian guard caught. He improvised, yanked a loose panel, rigged a flashbang from spare charges. The blast disoriented the enemy, Talira's team pouring through to shred the line. Guards whispered in awe. The human sees what we miss. But Jonah just reloaded, humble as ever, wiping sweat with a grin. Team effort. The throne hall loomed, Draven's forces barricading the vaulted doors under fluttering rival banners. Talira signaled the breach. Grenades first, then her strike team surging in a wedge formation she drilled under Jonah's patient tweaks. Bolts flew wild. She rolled behind a pillar, claws scraping marble, heart thrums syncing with the rhythm of return fire. Jonah covered her advance, his endurance shining, juggling rifle bursts, grenade lobs, and shouted redirects without pause. One guard faltered, winded. Jonah hauled him up, pack bond fierce. On your feet, we end this. Draven himself stood at the dais, flanked by armored zealots proclaiming imperial purity over a jury-rigged tribunal holocaust. Chancellor Mail hovered in the feed, his faction's insignia gleaming, voice oily. The Terran Union delegitimizes true bloodlines. Tribunals now. Surrender the throne. But Talira rose, carbine leveled, her team securing flanks. Your coup ends here, Chancellor. The Imperium stands with alliance, not division. Citizens' cheers erupted from outer comms, troops peeling from Mail's sway to pledge blades to her banner. Draven lunged, Jonah intercepted, a blur of human adaptability, disarming him with a joint lock honed from countless ops. No flair, just efficiency. Mail's image flickered, his mandibles twitching in shock as pledges flooded in. Loyalty to Aurel! To the commander! The Chancellor snarled retreat codes, but it was too late. Hall secured, banners torn down. Talira stood amid the wreckage, chest heaving, gazing at Jonah. Dust motes danced in emergency lights, his face streaked but eyes warm. The lessons, the trust, it had forged her. No longer sheltered princess, but leader. She stepped forward, voice steady over the all-calm. People of the Imperium, behold your future. Silence fell, then her words rang out. I declare my love for Jonah Mercer, not as attaché but as commander, partner, equal. Our marriage is command and governance entwined. Strength in unity. Gasps rippled through feeds. Jonah's hand found hers, human warmth against her scales. a quiet vow in his squeeze. Cheers exploded, alien and human voices blending. With the palace locked down, they mounted the dais together. Talera activated the Grand Hollow, Jonah at her side, his input seamless, pattern recognition weaving her reforms with Terran safeguards. Joint decrees, succession codified by merit and alliance oaths, no chancellor overrides, no rival fleets unchallenged. We reform tribunals for transparency, ports for shared defense. Miles' faction crumbled in the feeds, his spies routed, Draven in chains. Troops saluted, citizens roared approval. Jonah leaned close amid the din, voice low. You led that charge like you were born to it. She flexed her claws over his, spines relaxing for the first time. Born to rule, yes, but he'd taught her to lead. The fleet withdrew, ports held alliance ironclad. Peace settled, fragile yet forged in fire, their united rule a beacon. Spies might whisper still, but trust was steel now.